is that you bring the right people together and everything else will work itself out.
Community is never about like having a leader being in front of it. It's about listening and saying like, all right, what are the people that are showing up saying, and how can we support them?
I hope you all are doing fabulously this week. Firefly and I are in Santa Fe. I actually am parked at an Airbnb because Inara had her spay appointment. So she needs to be an indoor cat for a little while and just heal. And honestly, it's been really nice. It's a nice little relaxing break from finding water, finding propane, finding campsites and community, which we'll be talking about today, and doing all the things that road life requires. As a solo traveler, it can get a little exhausting sometimes, but I really recommend, if that starts to happen to you when you're out on the road, find either an Airbnb, maybe a hotel even for a couple nights, maybe stay with a friend, stay with family, or just find one place to park for a little while, because you don't want to get so burnt out that you want to exit the lifestyle and go back to being in a sticks and bricks or a grid kid, as some call it. And so for me, it's nice to just a couple times a year take a little bit of a breather, get a lot of work done, and just rejuvenate a little bit for the road life. So been doing that in Santa Fe and having a lot of fun doing it. Out hiking today in Santa Fe, and we are on the Monte Luna hike, on the saddle between two little peaks here. Pretty amazing, cold day, but still gotta love Santa Fe.
So hard to see from the moment we arrived. Cornelia, you are one who will survive. When time's been bad, you put smiles on everyone. I think of you and of all I should have done.
Snowshoeing in Santa Fe. Found a little lean-to.
The place you're from, the wealth of the color of your skin, and all you have burns to the sky. It's all too late, and you wonder why. Cornelia, your everyday is a struggle and a strife.
Our creepy snowman.
Creepy snowman.
How do you like having an Airbnb this month, honey?
Oh, I like it. I like it. I really like this race.
We got a hot tub. Woo-hoo. All right, I'll show you a little bit more about the Airbnb on next week's show. Today I want to concentrate on more of the van life side. So let's talk campsites and community. So this is part of a 4-part series that I've been doing on how to get started in van life. It is accompanied by an online course. With that online course, you get some really cool extras. And so it's going to be how to make money on the road, which in the online course, you get a full breakdown of how I make money on the road, including the breakdown of my YouTube earnings. Then you're going to get also a activity that really helps you nail in what could you do to make money on the road. Then the second video is on picking out either an RV, a schoolie, a bus, what's best for you, any kind of vans. There's some tours, interviews, really cool stuff. And then there's some really awesome activities that are included in the course that will help you kind of click through, think through all the pros and cons, and also, just do an interactive activity that helps you pick out what's best for you. Then the third video was on van life essentials within your build. So those kind of can range from top of the line to, something really basic, and just, something to get you out on the road. And so That is accompanied by a budgeting sheet. And then today we're going to talk a little bit about campsites and about finding community on the road. And the extra that you get in the online course for that is going to be a breakdown of a couple of my personal favorite campsites, as well as a list of resources that you can use to, different apps, stuff like that you can use to get out on the road. So, with all of that being said, of course, the most important thing is just to do it. Just get out there. As Matt says, one of the guys I'm interviewing today, the most important thing is just to take the leap and get out there.
I'm an overanalyzer. So I know what, if you're like me, you're going to do. You're going to try to get everything figured out first. But trust me, you don't want to do that. You want to get on the road, get out there, experience it, see what you like, see what you don't like. As you know, you may get a different rig. You may change your plans. You may be with someone, you may not. So there's a lot of growing that happens. But get out on the road. Know that you can do it.
So I agree with everything he just said. And you're going to hear more from Matt, who is one of the founders of the Good Vibe Collective. And he's going to really talk to us about community on the road. I am also going to be talking to Travis of the Vanlife Diaries, and he's going to be talking to us a lot more about that as well. I think it's really important to hear different perspectives on this from different members of the community who have been out here of, what's the best way to congregate in van life? One, outside of COVID era, and two, what do we do now? I get a lot of questions about how do you not be lonely on the road, and this is how, is by building up this community. So hopefully this video will really help you get a handle on that. So first, let's talk a little bit about how to choose where you want to go. So I've talked in previous videos about a couple of these things, but I'll talk about them just briefly again, and talk then kind of about the theory behind, where do you really want to be when you're in van life. So you see this atlas behind me. I personally really think it's very important to have a paper atlas with you. You never know when you're going to run out of service or not be able to find your way. I have the National Park edition from National Geographic, but there are some other options as well. Let's listen to Matt again and have him tell us a little of his thoughts on that.
Benchmark map. These are sweet because they work with no service, surprisingly. Yeah, my buddy who gave this to me, Kitten JR of Idle Theory Bus.
Oh yeah.
When they did their gathering in Taos, he did a how to find campsites seminar and did a great job and gave these all out for free to all of us. And that's what tuned me into these maps. So there's some pretty detailed paper maps that are worth getting into, especially in places like New Mexico and Arizona, where there's hidden gems everywhere, like where I'm at right now.
So there you go. Paper atlas, very important. And also just having the willingness to go down some dirt roads where you're not sure where they may lead. Of course, do this safely and always have some way to contact other people. I have a sat phone, it turns my phone into a sat phone. It's called Somewhere Global Hotspot. And that, kind of gives me a little bit more confidence that when I'm out in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service, I can still kind of take a little bit of risk and I can call out if I need to. So if you want to use more of the app stuff, which is great, especially when you're first starting out on the road, just find somewhere that you want to be. I personally really love iOverlander. There's also Free Roam is another one. The Vanlife app is a newer one that I found a little bit glitchy, but they're really working on it. So you can try that one out. And then Campendium is another one that I really like. There are more, of course, but these apps really will help get you started. And in the online course, I'll go over a little bit more about how to use those most effectively. There's also Harvest Hosts, which I personally absolutely love. If you get a year-long membership, then you can stay at vineyards, farms, all of this kind of thing. So that kind of is like the logistical part of like, where do you find camping? But I also want to talk a little bit on, what is bringing you to those campsites. For me personally, kind of the way I travel is based on three things. One is the weather. I have a heater and fans and everything in here that keeps it pretty comfortable, but it still is a van. And so you know, I want to be spending time outside mostly, so I really try to go to temperate weather areas, which in the winter is going to be more around, you know, of course, like desert areas, and then in the summer it's going to be higher mountains. The second way I travel is by just whatever I want to see. So if I see something beautiful and I really want to go there, then that's where I go. And I, you know, really follow kind of my heart. And, you know, if I want to be in forest, then I follow forest. If I want to be in the ocean, then I go by the ocean. The third thing for me really ties into this community piece of I go where I have friends or family or whatever. During COVID, I've been really kind of quarantining, then kind of entering a pod of friends. And I do that a lot when I travel, as I just kind of, you know, who do I want to see who I haven't seen in a while? Go to them and allow them to kind of show me where they really love, to show what they really love. Or I try to find some van life community. Okay, so let's hear more from Matt and also Travis, who are part of the Good Vibe Collective and Vanlife Diaries, respectively. They have a lot of really great things to say about community on the road, as they've both been leaders in this effort to really create a very strong community of people. So at one point, a note here, Matt and I start talking about dating on the road, because that's something that I get asked about a lot. If it's lonely out here, how to date. And, you know, we both have a lot of opinions on that, and it kind of evolved into a whole bigger conversation around dating, around sexuality too, in general. If some of you have been following me for a while, you know that I have been wanting to start a Patreon account based around personal power and sexuality. For a lot of different reasons, this has been a big part of my work that I've been doing for my whole life. So I'm super excited to announce that that is launching today, and it's going to start with that full exclusive conversation with me and Matt. It's pretty no holds barred, pretty not safe for work, so be ready for that. But I hope you all join me in that community if this is a topic that you're interested in. So find that link below, and I hope you enjoy the interviews ahead, and I will see you on the other side.
My name is Matt Alexander. I am a solo male van lifer, been living on the road full time with my co-captain Stella, who's laying right next to me over here, for about 3.5 years. And we started in Orlando, Florida, where I built the van in the summer in the heat of Florida, which was not a fun idea, and then shot out directly to Colorado, and then the rest of the country. Been to about 39 states. Love to travel, meet people, and connect. But what I didn't realize going into all of this was that I was going to find a huge community.
I didn't necessarily go to van life for like the dream or like to, you know, have that lifestyle. I did it because I wanted to be able to really like, I was renting a place, that boat room in San Diego, and it just would have helped me to reach a lot of goals if I didn't have the rent that I was facing, and it could change my lifestyle a little bit to shift my career again. And from there, it didn't all fall into place. It was really hard go for a little bit, but in that is when I met Kathleen and the Vanlife Diaries team, and slowly just got to know the community, and it slowly opened doors to OR and to meeting with different people and shooting with different people and writing, and the whole adventure elopement community, which I've gotten to make a lot of friendships and do a lot of work in, but then also the outdoor industry. And, you know, there's so many doors that open up when you're on the road, and getting to know people from all these different types of lifestyles who find something in common with the dream or the adversity or the oddness or the fear or the questions or just the camaraderie of doing it and figuring it out on the fly.
When I found out that not only was there a community of people on the road, but the people that I met while I was traveling were some of the most interesting, passionate, driven people I've ever come across. And for me, that lights me up, because if you can nerd out on something, I can nerd out with you. Like, that is all what I'm all about. And I think one of the things that this lifestyle affords us is the ability to have time to nerd out on things that we love, have time to find out what we love, what we don't love, what we want and what we don't want in life. Once I saw the opportunity to bring a lot of these people together, we started looking at gatherings and teamed up with different groups all over the country and went to gatherings in places like the Grand Tetons, Basalt, Colorado, Taos, New Mexico, Asheville, North Carolina, New Orleans, Austin, Texas, all over the country in 2019. And our part, and when I say our, talk about the Good Vibe Collective, which I'll get into, but our part in the beginning was I wanted to be a part of the community. I wanted to contribute some way, but I didn't want to just do a gathering. Everyone was doing gatherings. All my friends were doing gatherings. I was excited about these, but it just wasn't me. And what I love about this experience, one of the biggest things is the smaller caravan. So the 3 to 5 van caravan to me is the true experience of van life, because you get to connect with people on a deeper level. You're really engaging and you're sharing experiences all over amazing places. And so what I said was, hey, instead of a gathering, how about I organize a caravan, 2 gatherings? That way I can support your gathering, talk about it on social media as we're traveling to your gathering, so you'll get more publicity. We can gather people that are coming and say, hey, join the caravan on the route to this spot. And it just blew up.
What was it like for you when you first got on the road, that process of finding that community?
For me, it was I've approached a few things in my life about like it being kind of truly adventurous with not knowing a whole ton and just throwing yourself into it. And I think that's how I met a lot of people, was through kind of just going to the places I wanted to go to, and met some of my really good friends early on in Yosemite. And a lot of it was like, oh, Travis has got a rad van now, like let's go do trips with him. So I equally, like, I always wanted to build something I could bring people along from my current life into, and whether it's climbing or doing road trips, or picking up a friend who flew from out east to go travel down the coast, all those things. So I had like these friends that were coming with me whenever I could convince them to, or whenever they like called me up to do it. And then I had always kind of like looking out when I'm on the road, like, okay, who else is out here doing this? Like who's also going to these places and living this lifestyle, and who I'd get along with and be friends with, because you do have that commonality. But I think a lot of people, sometimes it can be easy to lose your identity into the van alone and not give yourself the opportunity to like get to know people pretty quickly for who they are, rather than just their living scenario.
What would be your advice to people who are van curious, or just getting out on the road, or just maybe in the build process, whatever, who are kind of like, okay, now I'm going to set off. How do I find community? How do I start? How do I just not be alone all the time on the road?
One of the things that I would just say, and it sounds simple, but social media, it's the easiest way to find people. Instagram right now, even though I'm not a big fan of it, is the place to be when it comes to finding the nomadic world, connecting with people on the road. It just is what it is. And so that at this point, I would say is your best bet. Obviously, Good Vibe Collective is a great place to start. One of our goals is to spotlight all these different things going on, so that you can come to Good Vibe Live or to our social media and see other things and go from there. But there's other great groups that are out there doing things. We try to keep a calendar of events. My friend Lisa does a great job, Vacay Vans, of putting together a calendar of all the gatherings. And so she keeps that updated, and we link over to that and are always mentioning events that are going on. As things get back to more of the new normal, that would be where I would go. Most people are genuine. And if you really are interested in connecting, that's the best way to just reach out and start talking about something you saw in their story, or ask them a question about something in their rig. And next thing you know, you are nearby each other and you get to connect in person. I would just put a bunch of van life photos on my Tinder, and then, look for other people that were van lifers.
I get a lot of questions about that, about like what dating is like on the road.
Oh yeah. I would love to talk about it, because it's crazy and interesting and all over the place. But at the end of the day, I think you need to be on this journey for yourself first. So focus on that above all.
I think people get really hyper focused in on like finding somebody to travel with and finding somebody to date with. And that, I've talked a lot recently about this sort of shift between want and need of like, yes, we all want a connection and partner and love and sex and all of that stuff that's like very important and integral to who we are. And then there's also the side of it that like if you need that, if you're not comfortable being alone, then like then it just leads to codependency, which again, as you say, of like this 0 to 60 kind of life with van life, I've seen so many people like get together and then it's just like, well, we just like can't ever leave each other again because we're
be willing to like not step into what you think other people are looking for with your life on the road. I think that's like a temptation um, some people would feel, and naturally so, because when you're going into a new environment, like you're the new kid at school, you don't want to like stick out and like in the sense of like you do want to be accepted. That's very normal. But we live in this subculture, which is like you're stepping away from being accepted into something new where you're not sure, like what you're stepping away from and who you are as you're doing that. And a lot of people are figuring themselves out. So being your authentic self can't change, from your build out to your lifestyle, like make it about you and kind of like let that lift up. And when you step out of the life that maybe you were leading, like try to leave behind the inhibitions as much as possible of like, trying to fit into an adulthood. Because it's really cool when you meet people who are learning to be more and more themselves on the road. And it's really cool when that's like happening to you as an individual. It's really cool to have these niches that we, belong to. Like my builds are built out like cabins. So I've got this like little cabin crew, that we kind of build things out the same. And then I've got friends who build them out like those little like all white, super cool little beachy vibe houses. And then I've got friends that like throw maybe a sleeping pad in the back and want to just go climb. But we're all kind of at the same table. And we're going to be after we move out of vans, if we ever do that as well.
I'd love to hear about your experience with the Vanlife Diaries, maybe explain a little bit about what they've been about and kind of what the future looks like for Vanlife Diaries.
For me, it's really listening to people and not asking them to do the work to create a place where everyone feels welcome and supported and heard and all of that stuff. It's just helping to foster that environment and seeing where we can do that and how we can lift up people, how we can make the group a sustainable one, but also one that stays around and doesn't lose sight on it being about community. And community is never about like having a leader being in front of it. It's about listening and saying like, all right, what are the people that are showing up saying, and how can we support them? And then how can we bring more life to it than we found it, than we continually find it. And with events, that looks like, all right, how do we bring people in? How do we bring like-minded companies in? How do we grow so each event is a little bit better than the last? But also it brings new people into it. And here's what other people are about as they're coming in. Something I've been doing is, when I do these portraits or meet with somebody or message them to see if I can come take their pictures, I don't really tell them what we're going to do, but I just want to like let them know I'm going to be asking you some questions. And I kind of always say like, okay, all I want you to do is tell me about yourself, and you just can't mention the van, because that's very apparent. You live in a van, you live on the road, and I think it's a nice, refreshing thing for people. Hopefully, in that little instant, like we actually want to get to know them.
I do want to connect with people. I feel like hugging someone is something I miss very much. We've been dealing with the last year. It's now turning into another year, most likely, if not more. And I'm trying to weigh out the cost of no social interaction, no connection with others, and how that weighs on my life compared to trying to enter that in a responsible way. And what does that look like? you know, and that's really the tough challenge, I think, for all of us. And anyone that wants to be a leader in this community is to say, okay, we're going to have to get back there at some point. How can we do this responsibly, and how can we, do this as a community together? Because I think if we just let it go and no one talks about it, things are just going to be all over the place. And I just think we can, we can come together and find a responsible way to do that. But it's going to be hard. We're trying to do a lot more online right now. Things have shifted as they do, which gave me the opportunity to try out a passion project of mine, which is Good Vibe Live, a nomad talk show that I'm kind of bridging the gap between podcast and video streaming, trying to figuring out my niche in that regard. But it's an exciting opportunity to connect people online as we all start to get more used to this.
I think when we can open the doors up to events and common shared spaces, I think what I'm looking forward to is creating a space for these people who've built these friendships to finally meet in person. Like what you're doing right now. I'm sure you've talked with so many people that you've never been within 1,000 miles of. Mm-hmm. So for you to be able to like have an event, or someone like that to have an event and just welcome everybody in, it's going to be like a homecoming, but of people you've never met before. I've coached the Navy's Wounded Warrior wheelchair rugby team, and have a friend who is very curious about van life, who's a paraplegic. And I think, opening up those spaces to making sure that, people who have that lifestyle and have injuries and stuff like that can feel like, oh, like there's a place for me here.
Our job could be to be a leader in this environment, in the nomadic world, and to create a foundation of, hey, if you're going to be out here living off of possibly free land, federal land, how would you do that in a responsible manner? How can we not just take from these places, but contribute back? And how can we group together so that we don't feel like we don't have a home, and instead feel like we're always home? And so that's really what the Good Vibe Collective was all about. It started as the Good Vibe Caravans, which were awesome and fun. But then people said, well, I'm not on the caravan. I said, well, no, you're always on the caravan. And so instead of caravan, we changed it to collective, because we want people to know that you're always a part of this, and it's a community that we're building. And so I urge everyone to check out the website. Shameless plug. It is awesome. Group of people. We really do love it. It's free to join. We have no incentive to sell your data or anything. It's purely for the community, by the community.
I am Travi Wild on Instagram. And yeah, Vanlife Diaries, you can hit us up. People can always message Vanlife Diaries. We do a pretty good job about getting back to everybody. But you can say like, hey, I want to talk to Travis or Kathleen or Johnny or Jared. A lot of times if you can't find someone, we're a good hub to be able to connect. Can't always do it because it's, the other person's prerogative whether they want to respond or not, but we like connecting people. But yeah, personally, I'm Travi Wild on Instagram, and that's probably the best way to reach out to me.
Thank you so much for joining me, Matt, and Travis today. You can find their Instagram links below, along with links to the Good Vibe Collective and Vanlife Diaries. I hope that you really enjoyed this, that you got some good ideas about how to build community on the road. I do want to also add one thing, that Facebook groups are a great option. So we talked a bit about social media, and Facebook groups have really helped me to kind of build some community and see some like-minded folks. So solo female van life for those of us who are solo on the road, or hashtag van life, bunch of different cool ones on there. So take a look at those if you're looking to build some community. Otherwise, y'all, I am so grateful for your continued presence here. Firefly and I, the channel, is going to be taking a little bit of a different turn. So we just did this 4-part series. Remember, there's an online course that goes along with that if you're interested in learning more about how to start van life. But I'm going to be taking kind of a step back from the more how-to informational videos and showing you more just about what life is like when you're living as a nomad. I'll show you a little bit of my cool little Airbnb next time I post a video, and then I'll be back on the road after that. So really excited to kind of evolve the channel and see how it goes with kind of how I'm feeling these days. So yeah, check out the Patreon, check out the online course. Thank you so much for tuning in again today. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Here's Sterling for you. And I hope you all have a great couple weeks ahead.